Welcome to another episode of Zelch. I am Cyrek, and I have a special guest with me today.
Name's Kaz. I'm a streamer, small-time streamer, and I'm just here chilling with Cyrek today.
Yeah, the other three had an unfortunate accident. Yes, they honestly are just having work all weekend and all week that they weren't able to make it to the episode. And it's just us here. We're going to be talking about Linux and right to repair is what Kaz brought up and wanted to talk about. So what about Linux is it that you wanted to talk about specifically?
There's a few things I want to talk about Linux. So pretty much Linux is an operating system like Windows or Mac. But it's one of those operating systems that a lot of people have a lot of fear about going into because they think you got to be like freaking code weavers or you got to know like all kinds of lines of code or something like that. And it's really not like that anymore. Linux nowadays especially nowadays, is a lot more user friendly to the consumer, the enterprise user, gamers in general. So Linux in general is just a lot easier to use. It's a lot more user friendly. And it has a lot of great features that I think a lot of people are missing out on. It's only got like what, 7%? No, not even 7%. Windows has like 93% of the desktop consumer space. Mac has like the 7%.
Mac has, if I remember correctly, Mac has 4% because they're used mostly for companies and like their editing software specifically.
On the enterprise side.
Yeah.
For the regular desktop consumer, though, it's slightly higher.
Slightly?
Yeah, I know. If I remember it, I got super hyped when I saw that Linux broke 1% on the desktop consumer space. It didn't last very long. It didn't last very long.
No, it didn't. But I remember learning Linux/Unix, and it wasn't hard to grasp, but at the same time, you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you can delete something by accident, especially if you're in the kernel mode.
That's both the beauty and the chaos of Linux, Unix operating systems in general. Is you, the user, get full control, but the problem is you, the user, get full control. So if you really fiddle with things that you probably shouldn't be fiddling with, like you could really mess something up. And I think that's what confuses a lot of people also. Whenever you're working in that kind of workspace, whenever you hear open source, what do you usually think?
Peer-to-peer, usually. It allows people to allows people to integrate their own codes into things, and people allowed to download those codes to implement into their own systems. Peer-to-peer is usually like GIMP, the editing software that's similar to Photoshop. There's a lot of open source for that, and people are constantly updating it on their own. Linux, Unix, other operating systems that are similar. But usually people who have a coding background or do it for fun, going in, changing some things, making it more user-friendly is what I think of whenever I think of open source.
That's mostly on the right path, and that's a good thing to think about. But the general majority of people, especially Jack Know Nothing, that has never touched a computer at all in his life, he hears open source and that everyone could access the code. It's like, oh, they could all access the code. They could see what I'm doing. They could do whatever. No. It's not like that. Open source is where, yes, the code is easily accessible and viewable by everyone, regardless of the party that you are. But it's just because you could read the code doesn't mean that you could easily modify the code in a way that's going to be malicious or anything like that. And because you have so many eyes on it, it's more open to scrutiny and also the way it's written. So whenever you have an open source project like GIMP, OBS, or any of these products at all, those are probably the most secure programs that you're going to be dealing with because everyone works with them, and then it becomes widely known, and you'll be able to find legitimate downloads or copies of that project that you're working with.
Exactly. Like, I use GIMP for Photoshop. It's the photo editing. I use GIMP for the thumbnails on the videos and things like that, and I find that somebody did an update to like the magic wand to make it more user friendly for what you want to erase out of the picture and what you want to leave. And
KazYual select.
yeah, a lot of Z select. But somebody updates the magic wand to be more accessible and have a better area of coverage for what you want to keep in the picture and what you want to remove. It just allows you to update it quicker through open source.
Yeah. Now that kind of reminds me of the other thing that I want to talk about. Like whenever you have like these programs that you're used to before, like say somebody was a hardcore Windows user, they use the Adobe Suite, Creative Suite for like Photoshop, Premiere, all that stuff, and they just don't want to pay that ridiculously high yearly tax anymore. So they just want to get something free that works for them, and they want to try switching to something open source or free. And then they see Linux and they go into it. It's like, I have to relearn everything here. And I kind of want to hark back to like whenever we first got into the age of smartphones, whenever we switched from the Flip T9, whatever, high school stuff. Well, kind of revealing our age there, but it was one of those things where we knew jack shit about all of this stuff. But you got to use both, iOS and Android. I can't see my hands down there, but whatever. But we use iOS and Android, and some people it was easier for them to use Android. Some people it was easier for them to use iOS. They had similar functionality, but the way that you did things was slightly different. And I want people to believe that this is the same way when it comes to these operating systems like Linux, Windows, or Mac. Is that they're still technically kind of ish the same. It's just that the steps that you're going to be doing things is going to be slightly different. So if you've never used Linux before, because it's not very well known, you're going to go into it thinking, I have to relearn all this stuff. When really it's just, I have to do the stuff that I was doing before, just slightly different.
Yeah, and I mean, learning it back whenever I was in Pensacola for school, it wasn't hard to pick up, though we did have one person accidentally delete one of the major files that they had us go in and create, and he had to recreate it.
That's never fun.
Yeah, no. But at the same time, I love the freedom that it gives you. And even with Linux, you can run like Windows side by side with it at the same time, or you can run Windows within Linux through a virtual machine.
Yeah. By the way, what do you think about the whole Windows subsystem for Linux?
It can be glitchy sometimes, from what I've seen.
Sometimes.
I use sometimes very broadly. But yeah, it's pretty glitchy. But I think that they're going to get it fixed with people working on it more and more.
Yeah. It really amazes me, though. One of the quotes that Linus Torvald said was, what was it? I believe it's not the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, if Windows ever makes an app for Linux, then I've won. So the fact that Windows Azure relies on Linux servers, and also that they're creating the Windows subsystem for Linux just so they could get into the Linux game in general, I think that pretty much means that, Linux is definitely a step in the right direction, and that Microsoft sees this and recognizes this as the largest competitor on the desktop PC space.
Yeah, and I mean Linux is pretty much already in everything because like our missiles in the military run on Linux, and that's widely known within the military department and those that are like military fanatics and like to learn about military history. They learn that we use Linux in our missiles. We use Linux for our thermostats, our smart fridges. Even Roku uses Linux as its operating system.
Sorry, I'm laughing too hard here because could you imagine if Apple ever made it into the weapon space? I can't imagine how that would work at all. Like, you have to have a contract before you like press a button or anything like that. If your missiles go down, you have to get a certified Apple repair technician to go out there and fix your missile.
You have to remember the Apple ID password.
Right, forgot about that. How could I possibly forget about that? Also, God forbid if one of your fins breaks off, because that's going to be serialized, and you have to, make sure that you get the fin reprogrammed with the approved Apple method or whatever as an AAST or whatever. But
yeah, Apple has so many things that you have to go through them themselves in order to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Which
go ahead.
Leads us into the other topic that you wanted to talk about, which is right to repair.
Yeah, right to repair. So, but yeah, Linux is in pretty much products everywhere. It's in your smart TV, it's in your Alexa, it's in your cars for programming and stuff like that. But
yeah,
it's in everything.
But, the car that my dad was working on, the turbo computer that he had, because he didn't have an actual turbo, he had a computer system that worked as a turbo. And that ran on Linux.
Yep, runs some form of Linux. Whereas this right here, this is an Apple iPhone, and even though I'm a huge proponent of right to repair, it doesn't mean I'm actually against the products themselves. So the reason why I use both Android and Apple is to have an understanding of both ecosystems, to make recommendations to my friends who are super technically inclined that want to be able to use their phone for different functions that one side or the other can't operate on. So that's why I use it. However, the practices for this little fucker, Apple, where they're serializing the parts, where if you got two brand new iPhones and you swap the screens, all of a sudden one is not going to have the same functionality as it did before, even though it's a genuine Apple product with genuine Apple parts. If it doesn't have the blessing of Apple that says, this is the display that was meant to be on this phone or whatever, then you're screwed. Pretty much it'll still work. Technically, you can do it yourself, so they do let you repair it yourself. It's just not going to have the same functionality because it doesn't have the blessing of Tim Cook. Yeah, and that's the thing that I really have a problem with. So that's another reason why I use these products. So I could make sure that whenever I use these products, I could recommend it to a person who does not mind the consumer waste, as bad as that sounds. There, because a lot of people don't care. They really don't. You just have to work with it at that point. They have to know that there is certain pros and cons to using these things. Like the good thing about Apple is the good things I could say about Apple is their software updates are on point, and if you use their products, you're guaranteed to have that product for at least 4 years. With their and they also have a timeline as to how long they have their devices in support for, and they clearly state that stuff, which is good. That's the stuff I could be like, okay, Apple, you know what? Good job on that. But their repair program in general, or the idea of, and this was like real slap in the face whenever they tried to say like, we support independent repair. And it's like, but you have to, one, get certified with Apple to be a certified Apple repair tech as an independent repair. Two, you have to, even if you leave the program, Apple has rights to inspect your store for 5 years after you leave the program. Stuff like that. Really stupid bum. I believe this is stuff that was in an NDA. I'm not going to source it because This is not stuff that I could hard say that this is an actual thing that's happening, but it is on the rumor mill whenever you check many sites in general. You just have to take a look around. I'm sure you'll find it.
Yeah, there's many tech sites that state these things.
Allegations. These allegations.
Yeah, these allegations that this is what Apple does. This is how they can screw you over. But at the same time, their product will last for the time that they say that it will last.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm noticing nowadays also, when it comes to these software and security updates, Android has gotten a lot better with support for their phones for more than 2 years of a product. Because there's been many times where I've seen Android phones where whatever version of Android it came out with, it would get security patches up to a certain point, and then that's it. It's gone. And then even worse so, if it's a cheapo budget Android phone, good luck. You just won't get any security updates. That's it, plain and simple.
Yeah. And thing is, there's more than just Apple and Android for operating systems, because there's open source ones. Like there's Plasma Mobile, there's Postmarket OS, there's Pure OS / Librem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But whenever you actually look into those phones, so it's great that you can run Linux on a phone, and it does actually function as a phone and a reliable phone and an easily repairable phone. All gold stars on stuff like that.
There is one problem though. You don't get the stores.
You don't get the stores, and some of the content is questionable on use. Like, it's kind of like having a really good handy tool. Like, say you have you have your camera on here, and then you have a camera on the Pine phone. The camera on this thing is absolutely amazing. Has good autofocus. Has pro mode where you could change like the isometric values and stuff like that. It has a lot of good stuff. And then there's a point and clicker from Librem that's very, very subpar, if you could call it that. And measly 5 megapixels. It's usable. You could use it to take pictures. Yes, it is a camera that is usable, and you could take pictures with it. Is it good?
No.
Unfortunately not.
Like, the third-party operating systems are getting better. It's just people have to start working with the codes more because they're open source. And once people learn the code and actually start working with it more, then it will get the updates that it needs. Right now, they're not in that situation that they can be reliable.
Yeah, it's all about optimization. Memory leak.
Yeah. Though there is one thing with third-party OSs, like, I know Apple does not allow you to, because they will immediately be like, you have an Apple phone, you're not running Apple iOS. We're shutting down the phone, you can't use your phone number anymore.
Oh yeah, that is a thing that is another thing with Apple in general. Like, you could jailbreak it, but then it's like you pretty much made your phone useless though, because it'll just connect or disconnect all of your services in general.
Yeah, and whenever I had an Apple, I had a buddy who also had an Apple, and he was on Verizon, and Verizon and Apple have a contract that if they detect that your phone is jailbroken, they will disconnect your phone number until you get it reset to factory.
Yeah. So it's I don't like the serialization of these products, and the worst part is that whatever Apple does, the best and worst part about it is whatever Apple does, companies follow suit. Headphone jack disappeared. Security updates started becoming more frequent, which means other people follow suit on that. So it's like, you're losing things, you're gaining things. And honestly, at this point, it just feels more like you're leasing a device until the end of its life cycle, and then before you drop $1,000 on another one.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's crazy to me is the price of cell phones have gone up dramatically. Like, I bought the one that I have now for like $300, and it's the base model Samsung A10e. Because I
Mhm.
didn't I wanted the Galaxy, but I didn't want to pay $1,000 or $800 for another S8, S9, S10.
Yeah.
I don't even think they have an S9. They went straight to 10 because 9 in Korean sounds like death.
Now that I think about it, no, I don't remember S9.
Yeah,
I need to
no.
Google this.
Yeah, I don't think there's an S9 because it sounds too close to the I forget, they don't use kanji in Korean.
Oh, nope, they do have S9.
They do?
Yep, there is S9. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
aside from that,
yeah, aside from that, thank you for that though. But
have to make sure you're not talking out your butt.
yeah, got to make sure. But they have it to where they have the A10e as a offshoot. It runs on a 32-bit operating system instead of a 64-bit.
Hmm.
And so there's several apps on the App Store for Google that I cannot get. Like if I wanted to play the new Teamfight Tactics that came out on mobile a while back for League of Legends, I can't play it because it requires a 64-bit operating system.
It's okay. You don't need a gacha in anyways. You don't need any
Yeah,
pulls.
I don't need any more gachas. I already play Shadowverse.
But let me take the time to tell you about this game called Raid Shadow Legends.
No.
Raid Shadow Legends is a free. Okay, I'll shut up. I'll stop.
The only person that can do that ad and sound sarcastic but pitch it at the same time is Count Dankula.
So there's a YouTuber I used to watch. He does Rust videos, but he sounds super sarcastic while saying it, but at the same time, it sounds legalese good enough that he wouldn't be removed from the
contract.
Yeah, from the contract for what he's saying. But yeah, I'd watch Oblivion. He's got really good Rust videos. Anyways,
but with the operating systems that are third party, they're open source. They don't allow you to access the stores that Google and Apple allow you to. But if you have a Samsung phone, you can still access the Samsung store because that's embedded into the code of the phone itself.
Yeah.
But that store is bare bones at the same time.
Janky at best.
Yeah.
What do you think about the whole Epic Game Store lawsuits against Google and Apple in general?
I think it's funny, but at the same time, Google and Apple shouldn't have taken some of the things from Epic that they did. Like they had mobile games from Epic that they just dropped.
Well, the thing is, on the Android side, you could still install the apps through an APK, which is less secure. And of course, when people talk security, they don't want to just trust these unverified apps and all that. Even though it has a clear, large following, people know this product, they know the people who made it, and they trust it, and they want to use it, but they want the simplicity of being able to install it off of a single app store. It's understandable that people are going to be extremely pissed off whenever they take it off the store. But the thing is, I think Epic wanted to send a message in general about how the App Store works, because the rules for the App Store, they're pretty cut and dry. If you have your app on our App Store, any proceeds that you make, a certain cut goes to us. I think it's something like 70-30. So if you buy something for $5 on the store, then Google and Apple is going to take $1 from that proceed, or rather, they're going to take an extra $1 on top of it. So while Epic will still make the $5 for the $5 product, you, the user, are going to be paying $6. $5 for the store, and then an extra $1 to use the blessing of, Tim Cook or whoever Google's founder is right now. I don't know.
I don't remember. There's 3 people that have cycled in and out of Google so far.
Yeah, so I feel like it's really interesting legal battles and stuff like that, because I feel like they make so much money off of just everything that they do, anyways. That I have no problem saying, "Hey, come on, help the little man out." But at the same time, it's a business.
Yeah,
How would you yourself want to rewrite the rules? Does it have to be that high of a cut? Because Epic Games have actually proven by competing with Steam that when developers have a higher share of the cut, they're more likely to make products for them exclusive first. They have no problems with it.
that's very true. And like, there's not only Steam. There's GOG. There's
Good old games.
yeah. There's another one that I was looking at earlier that somebody had brought up. Let me see if I can find it again or not.
Is Humble Bundle with GOG or how does that work?
Humble Bundle is with GOG, yes.
Okay.
I can't find who it is, but they allow you to buy like anime games, like God Eater, the more adult ones as well that are only localized in
NSFW.
Japan. Yeah,
I think it's hilarious that Xbox and PlayStation are, in the Americas at least, are like, we're not going to let you digitally distribute 18 plus games over here. But then Nintendo Switch is just like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, Nintendo, the one that's always been family friendly from the get go, is like
family friendly in all ways. Okay, we're gonna pump the brakes a little bit.
Like, just yeah, you want to be an indie developer, put it on our store, go ahead. And then you have Sony and Xbox, and they are freaking. The Mass Effect game is getting censored.
It's Mass Effect, man.
Yeah, they're with the Legendary Edition. They're changing camera angles, even though originally what they said was the camera angles are there to what is the word I'm looking for? Show off why this character is the way they are. Like Miranda. Miranda is supposed to be the perfect woman. She was genetically modified by her father to look like and be the perfect woman. That is why she looks the way she does. And that the camera angles they said were to extend it starts with an A. Accentuate. Yeah, accentuate that part of her and her character, even though that's just the surface level, and then you start looking into her psychology and everything else, and she's a much more three-dimensional character at that point. But I find it funny that Nintendo's just like, you want to make 18 plus rated games? Go ahead.
And that is the importance of right to repair, because if you don't have right to repair, then you don't get to see cute anime titties. But anyways,
what Nintendo has an issue with the right to repair, though. Nintendo does.
They do.
Because you have to send it into them, have them fix the console that you have. Otherwise, your warranty is voided, and they can shut off your Switch if you got it repaired through a independent party.
I'm not sure if it goes that far, but it is true that a lot of large manufacturers, and also this is not just limited to consumer and electronics. Also, this also like let me get something straight real quick. My expertise is on small consumer level electronics. I don't work with tractors, cars, or anything like that. But there has been a lot of right to repair hearings for farmers and major automotive dealers and stuff like that. And there's so many of those where it could coincide with small consumer electronics. So everything that I'm saying right now is all personal opinion, and some of the stuff I don't know well enough to make a judgment call on. But I feel like the notions are overall the same. You have a large company that does not want you, the consumer, to be able to repair easily their product. They want to control both the selling of the product and the rights to repair the products that you buy, which is why I said earlier, you're basically leasing those products. if you have a John Deere tractor, and this is just what I've been hearing, if you have a John Deere tractor, tire goes out. You can't just replace the tire yourself. You have to have a contractor go out, check it, calibrate a new tire to be put on. And if you're a farmer and you're working for X amount of hours a day, and you have a certain amount that you need to get done by that day, so you could keep up the product to ship out to us, the people that use it, you can't wait for a contractor to come out and do that stuff. You have to be able to do that stuff yourself, which is why you see tractors on auction, old tractors from the 80s on auction, selling for like 30, 40, 50,000 at a time, because you could fix those, you could repair those. And this also ties into stuff like medical equipment. If you have the I forget the organization, but if you have the World Health Organization saying, we would like to see people independently repair these microscopes or these oscilloscopes or these other medical equipment, because contractors, they take time to process all this stuff, bring it into their shop, and send it back, when you could easily have an independent repair shop do it in like 2-3 hours for something like rewiring or something like that.
Yeah.
Small component level repair. When you have a World Health Organization saying this kind of stuff, and you can't do it just because the law says, well, they own these products or whatever. You don't own the product yourself anymore, and you better be happy about it.
Like that's
the
problem with what we did in the military, you and I.
That's right.
We were trained how to work on component level, but through warranty, we're not allowed to, because
we're not going to get into specifics of the companies or whatever, but pretty much we were not allowed to work on our own stuff, even if we were trained on it.
Yeah. We were trained to the component level of how to repair it, how to remove certain components, and how to address and troubleshoot those components to find the bad ones. But due to warranty, we were not allowed to work on those components. We had to send the whole module to a warranty specific company and have them fix it, and it took 6 months to a year sometimes, maybe longer, depending on whenever they fixed it.
Yeah.
And we had the training, we just couldn't do it.
Could you imagine that? And imagine being out in a war zone or in a place in a hostile area, hostile territory. Radio goes out, and you can't open it up and fix it yourself because warranty, which means you're just going to be stuck in the dark in that hostile area. We're sending our people out like that. So let's stir up some patriotism here. Yeah, whatever. But this is all stuff that we know of, we're aware of, but we can't do anything about it.
Exactly. And getting down to the consumer area for the general public, the right to repair is, if I want to go in and I have the training myself, I trained myself through independent sources, I know how to fix my computer or my game console or what have you, and I know what's wrong with it, due to the the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act of 1975. My warranty is voided as soon as I touch one screw to open the console, computer, or product that I purchased.
Yep. But
and
yourself.
Yeah, I can fix it myself, but if there's something that I don't have the money to fix it with, or have the proper component that is specific to that company, I screwed myself over because I opened it.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, I think it's really great in some of these right to repair hearings I've been looking at over the past 2 years, where they're like, we just want to control the repair market because we are concerned about your safety. And it's like, there's people that are lifting up their cars, 2-3 ton vehicles up in the air with hand jacks to replace tires themselves or change out engine components or whatever. And you're concerned that somebody is going to explode their battery because they opened up their device wrong or something like that. Like, obviously we know we're human beings. We're smart. Some of us, some more than others, but we have intelligence to understand that we could open up something, not hit a battery or try not to break a screen or whatever. And if we do that, that's on us. And we should be able to pay for the parts to replace those components that we're trying to fix in general. I mean, if we had a problem to begin with and, we have the aptitude to be able to fix it, why not just sell the parts that we need to fix it? But, they don't want us to do that. And then even then, whenever you send these products in to get fixed, the things that they require is first, you have to have 3 to 5 business days for a turnaround time, which is already super inconvenient. And then whenever you send it in, they wipe all of your data because for whatever reason, you can't change out a battery or a screen without all of your data going away. It doesn't make any sense at all. I've never understood that, but they force that on the consumer. It's like you're forced with these shitty services and you're lobbying against the right to repair because you don't want us to hurt ourselves. You're already hurting us by completely destroying all the data that we put on there. Well, just back it up to the cloud. Yeah, the cloud that you only have 5 gigabytes for when
unless you pay more to get more data to store.
See, now you're on the right idea. Either way, it's all money grubbing. And I think the biggest thing about this in general is they're trying to push the line. They're trying to see how much can we take before the public says, I don't agree with this anymore, and I'm not going to stand for it. And I really feel like, there's a lot of people who are saying well, if you don't like it, just don't buy the product. I think that's not enough, because obviously, like I said earlier, Apple makes good software. They have consistent updates. And if you never break your device, it's great. It's good. And a lot of people are going to live with that and they'll be totally fine with it. And there's more people like that than people who want to be able to have the right to repair their products. So that voice is not going to be heard as much.
Exactly. And specifically with the vehicles, my dad was a mechanic. I grew up working on vehicles with him. They were way over warranty because they were old cars.
Mm-hmm.
However, whenever he was working at his mechanic shop, he had to make sure that he contacted the manufacturer of the vehicle to get the specific part, even though he could go down 20 minutes to the automotive shop, auto repair shop that like Advanced Auto, AutoZone, such to get the same part, but because the way that the company worked that he worked for, he had to call the manufacturer to get the part, and it took between 5 to 10 business days to get that part whenever he worked on a vehicle that needed to be done almost immediately because of the vehicles that he worked on.
And once again, a product that is integral to our livelihood and the things that we have to do because we all got shit we got to get done. We have to wait on a contractor or some kind of contract or warranty or some kind of manufacturer. It's ridiculous. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, and we need to be able to, if people know the information and know how to fix the issue with the device that they purchased themselves and have the means to repair it, they should be able to without having issue of having to send it in later for a component that they themselves are not able to get. But
where is it?
The companies just expect us to.
You get used to it.
Oh my god. That's great. I'm glad you have all these clips on standby.
Yes. I have a lot of clips on standby. Or the companies are just
God damn it.
the only issue I can see with right to repair would be that somebody who doesn't understand just goes in there willy-nilly and destroys their product. Like if they're working on a component that requires you to use a anti-static mat or something like that, and they accidentally shock one system through static electricity, and their system no longer turns on, and they don't know how to repair that. Yeah, that's an issue, but you should look into the information first before going into what you're wanting to repair.
Yeah, which is also information that they won't provide because you don't need it. Because why would you, repair your own device, you idiot? Stuff like that. I believe that's their mentality. Well, I don't believe it's fully malicious like that.
No, it's not.
But that's just the vibe that I get from seeing some of these testimonies and these lobbyists that are anti right to repair. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Whenever somebody works on their own product and they break it, that's on you. Costs on you. You got to pay out warranty costs for that. I have no issues with that at all. But at least let me have the opportunity to do it. There's one time where I had a laptop from Lenovo, and I fucked up. I tried to unscrew the spot to put in NVMe SSD in there.
Yeah.
And I don't have an anti-static Mac because who has time for any of that shit? I'm just pulling the stuff out. But I slipped and I stabbed my screwdriver into the motherboard. I zapped it. I fucked it up. That's all on me. I get it. It's like, I need a new motherboard for this laptop. And I contact Lenovo. It's like, here's what I did. I was trying to put this in. I stabbed my motherboard. I zapped it. I don't care how much it costs. I would like to get a new motherboard for this laptop. Can we do that? Lenovo is like, we cannot sell you the motherboard, which is like, all right, cool. I get that. But Lenovo was also nice enough to say, just send us your laptop and we'll fix it for you. It's like, okay, how much is that going to cost? And they're like, just send it over to us. So I sent it over to them. They sent it back. No invoice, no cost. They just repaired it.
That's good customer service.
That is extremely good customer service, which is why, it's like, the next time I get some kind of like pre-built product, it's probably going to be a Lenovo because they did that stuff for me. And also Motorola, which is now a sub product of the Lenovo company. They do have repair parts for, some of their older phones, not their newer ones, which is unfortunate, but they did actually have like a part store that you could use to get parts to fix your phones and all that. I need to look into it now, but I don't think they have that store anymore. But it was one of those things that were maybe hopeful for the company of Motorola in general, because Motorola does make good products. They do keep up with security updates, and they worked on mostly any carrier because they have both GSM and CDMA phones, which was really cool.
Yeah, and like with going back to cars, they have the How To for Dummies books for specific cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they still make them. It's just now that there's manufacturer parts that are specific, they don't put those manufacturer parts in those books that tell you how to get them anymore.
Yeah. So I'm not going to name drop on this one, but anyone who's followed the whole right to repair thing may know of this particular YouTuber. But there was one time a lawsuit was filed against him for pretty much showing blueprints to Apple devices whenever he would do component level repair on them, like following power rails for the PP bus and, just like there's all these schematics that are being shown on screen, and they tried to file a lawsuit against him saying, you need to take down these videos because you are showing these schematics for our devices. And he's like, all right, I'll do that if you file a public claim saying why you want this video taken down. And of course, they won't go through with that because it's going to be bad PR. Obviously, like anyone could take a look at a device and eventually troubleshoot. Like, with given enough time and experience, any good tech will be able to find out, like, this particular line gives power to this particular thing, and if this thing, gets like a jump or something to complete that circuit to get it running again, obviously this is a power rail for XYZ or whatever. Eventually people could find this stuff. It's just inconvenient, but he's still going to be able to do his job. But the thing is, they privately tried to take him down for trying to show these schematics, things that he's been working on and stuff like that.
And thing is, those schematics, I've seen Apple product schematics all over the internet. They're not anything new. People can access them on their own. And he's getting sued for this same thing that
Litigations
people...
and suits against him for showing them, yes.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the blessing of Tim Cook or whatever. I'm going to be saying
What a
that.
beauty. What a delight. What a treat that can't be beat.
Essentially, yes.
There needs to be a line that is drawn to what exactly is manufacturer warranty and what the consumer themselves, if they have access to it, can repair.
Yeah.
Like operating system and software-based repair, that should be completely on the people that know the software itself. Like, if you know it, good on you. If you don't, send it in.
I feel like that's for both. Personally, I feel like that's going to be for both software and hardware. Like, it simply should be, give us we just want the tools to be able to fix our stuff. You don't need to give us your code. You don't need to give us anything that accesses sensitive data or anything. All we want to know is, can we buy the frickin' battery to replace in our phone? Or can we get the components so we could, solder in a new chip if we want to? And if we break it, that's on us. At that point, then we could rely on you, the dealer, the manufacturer, to take care of those large-scale fixes or whatever. But I don't think they would want to do that. Because, and I feel like this is a really big thing. We talk about recycle, and the steps of recycling, I believe, is reuse, refurbish, and then recycle. And I think they just skip the first two and just go straight to recycle, which I don't think happens either, because we have so much tech waste in the world in general. But yeah, the issue is, like, people don't reuse the products, people don't refurbish the products, people don't recycle the products. They just get trash dumped, and then you buy another one.
It's just now that people are starting to reuse and refurbish products, such as my Nintendo Entertainment System, the original one, is a refurbished Nintendo Entertainment System. And somebody found it in their attic. All the components were scuffed up. Some of the capacitors were blown. And there was a shop that they sold it to, got good money for it. And they, on site, in that shop that I bought it from, repaired it and refurbished it.
Nice.
Because there is one thing that Nintendo does right. Whenever they have a system that is no longer sold, they allow people to refurbish them, and they have a area that if you are a licensed company that sells retro games, they will give you the components at a reasonable price to refurbish them yourself.
That's some good stuff. I actually still have a working 1985 Nintendo. Still works. I got DACA and everything. It's great.
That's great. That is really great.
Off topic. Completely off topic here. What do you think about speedrunning?
I think it's really fun. I just don't have the capacity to do it, but I enjoy watching people do it.
Yeah. So do you think at some point emulator should be the new norm for doing speedruns as opposed to doing it on original console?
So let's break down what emulator is, because there are two different types of emulator. There's the software-based emulator, and then there is the emulator that you have the components itself of the system and allow the system to run on your computer to emulate the
Mhm.
game that you're playing, and you
For
have the
pos-
physical game there.
yeah, for posterity's sake, let's just go with software emulation. On the computer itself, not original console or any original components of said console at all. What do you think?
So with the anti-piracy things that they introduced, that can make speedrunning difficult depending on what era you're using.
No, don't even worry about piracy. Assume that they let you use the emulator and the software because you still own the original product. You just can't use said original product anymore. Should
Oh.
should you compare emulated speedruns with original console speedruns?
Depends on the hardware that you have, honestly, because there are some that that can increase the processing rate of the game itself, and if you have the physical game in there and the software that you're using is reading the physical game, you shouldn't have an issue with it, but they should be considered separate because of the processing power of the system that you are using.
You got it. You got the right idea. They actually do that. So if you look at the speedrunning leaderboards, you'll see let's go with Super Mario since everyone knows Super Mario. You'll see Super Mario speedruns for original console, and then you'll see one for emulated. But
Yeah.
specifically for the emulate, they actually have both of their speedruns. Like you could do emulated or original console, and they'll still compete with each other, but one will have a notation that says like emulated. So people will trust the validity of these speed runs, even if it's on emulated or original console, because of how close the emulated version is to the original console. And also, there's very, very stringent rules whenever it comes to speed running. Like, there's a whenever they do the timers for the loading screens and stuff like that, it's for specific points, like when no frames are being rendered for the software emulation, the timer stops, or like whenever there's like a loading screen on the NES, the timer stops. Basically, like whenever there's no active frames in place being captured, time stops either way. So they will still have excuse me, burp. They will have extremely close timings to the point where it's indiscernible.
Yeah, and that's honestly fair because I've seen some speedruns and I've seen both emulated and original console, and they're wild, but I can see that the emulated ones on a more powerful system have an advantage with how the game runs itself. Like,
Yeah.
there was one that I was watching you play that you were doing yesterday. I don't remember the name of it.
Gitaru Man Lives. Oh my god, that was
The D button not working.
no, the square button not working.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
square
So,
button.
an integral part of the game, the guard phase, where you are supposed to guard damage, which also gives you points. And I couldn't do it because the emulation was garbage. It was terrible. The game loaded way faster than I ever would have on a PSP.
Though during your stream, you were dropping frames constantly.
That has to do with my encoder in general. For me, on my screen, it was fine, but the way I was doing the encoding, I was doing hardware encoding because I was testing out AMD's hardware encoding on the 5700 XE. Honestly, so this is another off-topic thing, but whenever you're doing software encoding versus hardware encoding, for the AMD side, hardware encoding is best used for high bitrate recording. Like, we're talking 15 megabits per second versus the 6,000 megabits, or excuse me, 15 megabits per second versus the 6 megabits I was using. So like whenever like it has like this weird ratio where the lower your bit rate is, the worse the way worse the quality is for the AMD side as opposed to like NVENC or something like that. It's a weird thing.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about my studies for encoding in general, but basically with that particular program, the way it works, it's not going to be pretty trying to emulate that one.
Yeah.
emulate and stream that one.
It looked like it was going to be difficult, especially since you couldn't get the square button to
There's
read properly.
yeah. Originally, it was supposed to be on the PS2 emulator, but that one was completely crashing, so that one definitely could be used. And I was like, shit, I already got the thing started for a stream, so I was like, I'll try this. And like literally within that time frame of stream starting, I was able to download the ISO and the emulator and pull it up and map the buttons before the stream even started. And it's just like, oh shit.
All running on Linux.
All while we're running on Linux. I love Linux. It's one of those love-hate relationships because it's like, I use Windows, I use Linux, and I did dabble in Mac a bit, and I have an understanding of these systems, how they work. Linux sometimes needs extra steps, but at the same time, some things are just one-click solutions on Linux as opposed to Windows.
Yeah, and honestly, I want to see how your Linux runs go because they seem very interesting in comparison to how the Windows operating system runs games because you're able to do a little bit more, though you have a limited supply of games that you can actually run on Linux right now.
You know what I should do? I should do speed run challenge. I have two virtual machines pulled up, one side for installing Windows, one side for installing Linux. Each have 4 cores parked on either side with the same amount of RAM. So that way, in theory, the hardware is going to be exactly the same for both sides. We'll just see which one installs faster and with less telemetry.
Should do that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm running a Ryzen 3950X, which is a 16-core processor. I think I could pull this off.
You should be able to. I've got a Ryzen 5 3600X, so I've got
Still
6 cores.
Yeah, still a good one. You don't need to go overboard like I did. I did it because more cores. I just wanted more.
I want more cores. It's just I need to invest a lot because I want to upgrade my graphics card.
Good luck doing
Because
that nowadays.
Huh?
Good luck doing that nowadays.
Yeah, they're almost all out of stock right now.
They are all out of stock, and if you try to buy last gen's graphics cards, like say,
Mine is a last gen though.
No. Here's the thing: if you look on PC Part Picker right now, I believe I saw a 1660 Ti being sold for $680.
It wasn't even that on release.
I know. The MSRP for a 1660 Ti is roughly $200.
Yeah, it was like whenever it came out. What?
Quite a while ago, 3 years ago,
Yeah.
I think. I think it was 3 years ago.
Because I know the 20 series came out after, like maybe 3 years after that, and then the 30 series just dropped at the end of last year.
No. The 10 series came out before the 20 series. And then after the 20 series, the 16 series
Oh, yeah.
immediately after the 20 series.
Okay, so they backtracked on the numbers.
Yeah, because they weren't RTX, so they didn't want to give it the 20 monkeyer. So they went with 16. Why they went with 16, I don't know.
Don't know. But
I never understand these naming SKUs at all, man.
Naming schemes for companies are weird, man. The reason that there's no Windows 9 is because Windows 98 was coded as Windows 9. So since they build off of the previous Windows version, Windows 9 would be launching Windows 98 every time it launched.
What's your opinion of Vista?
It's good, but it was awful starting out.
One of the biggest reasons also is because back then, Windows XP could get away with using a spinning disk hard drive and be totally fine because there's not as much stuff running in the background. But then when you have a majorly themed Windows operating system that is highly resource intensive and RAM was just simply not fat. Well, the combination of disk read speeds and the RAM just was not conducive with Vista at all. If you install Vista now, it's going to feel like you're using Windows 8 for the most part.
Well, so I have some of the old Star Wars games
Yeah.
from Steam.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention. If you use Windows Vista with a solid state drive, it feels like using Windows 8. Sorry about that. I had to elaborate on that.
Yeah. So some of the old Star Wars games do not allow you to run on Windows 10 if you do, because because the way the movement is in the game, it's based on frame rate. So if you have a high frame rate for the game, you're just zooming.
Oh my god, that sounds
So
terrible. That sounds awesome.
You have to emulate a prior version of Windows that was made around the same time as that game. So like if a game came out in 98 for the PC, you emulate Windows 98 and the game runs fine. If you run it on Windows 10 and it's a frame rate based movement game, you're gone. You're just zooming.
This reminds me. So I have a Windows game on Linux that was originally released in 2003. It's called Ragnarok Battle Offline. I cannot get that thing to run properly on Windows 10 at all because frame rate issues. But for some reason, works totally fine on Linux. Like, just run it through wine staging, and then I'm just running it at the exact speed that's supposed to be with no issues at all. And this is an English translated patch version of Ragnarok Battle Offline. Really, really fun game. I'll link you to it sometime.
Please do. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. It's basically Ragnarok, but set as a arcade beat 'em up style as opposed to a top-down clicker.
Huh. That's very, very interesting. And also, what is your opinion on how Android's been handling Apple catching up to them?
Apple catching up to them. I honestly, so whenever it comes to the whole Android versus Apple thing, I don't see it as an issue. I think Apple in general is they're curating the process of how they do things. And when I say curating, I mean that Apple is handpicking the things that they like to see from others before implementing it themselves. So they're honestly, I don't know their business model whenever it comes to these things, but whenever it comes to getting these things together, they're like, picture in picture. Okay, how is that going to interfere with the interface or how we usually run things? Because they're pretty cut, dry, and simple. They don't allow overall theming of their home screen or anything like that. But now they're including widgets because it has been by popular demand and they wanted to find some way to implement it. I feel like there's a whole lot of process in the background for how they want to actually implement these features that have been on Android phones for years, which any Android fanboy, you're going to hear it from them. And honestly, I'm getting tired of the memes because it's like, oh, we did it first. We're better. It's like, well, they're doing it for their products. It's a catch-up thing. It's just how they do things. It's not an issue. I don't think like that's really a topic that people should be focusing on too much. Like, if they get it, cool. That means it just makes things a little bit better. Whenever it comes to apps built for iOS that's non-Android, they got that too. Like, one of the games I really enjoy is Crypto the Necrodancer, which is not Android but is on Apple, which throws me off because technically it should be a relatively easy thing to transfer or to redo Xcode for ADB and code that game, but that's just personal opinion at that point, honestly. But anyways, I digress a little bit. Long story short, if Apple is getting these features after Android, then good on them. I'm happy that they're doing it. Better late than never, because there is a lot of good features that they could be getting.
I mean, yeah, they what was it? The fingerprint recognition came from Android originally.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Apple just implemented this where whenever somebody calls you, it will drop down for the answer/decline instead of popping up on the screen itself fully if you're already in a window.
Yeah. They're just not doing this stuff. I know. It's like great. That's one more thing that could make the feature better for the end user. That's really all I care about. Is the product good for the end user?
at the end of the day will be, especially whenever other companies like innovate more and keep things going for tech, and the other companies are implementing what they've discovered is capable on mobile platforms, computer platforms, and such.
So one of the things that I do like that Apple's doing right now, and I hate saying this because I like Apple products, but I hate Apple as a company. I hope you understand this. I like the products that come from Apple, but I hate the company itself.
I mean, I like Android products, but I hate Google.
Yeah. So you got it then. But anyways, one of the things that they're implementing is ARM chips for their laptops, which I think is a great step in the right direction for people who want a business-oriented laptop that has a long-lasting battery and also capability for, like, say, 4G LTE on a laptop or something like that. I think that's great to have those kinds of SSDs on it. It's a step in the right direction. It definitely uses less power. It still does a lot of things right in kinds of like graphics or video capability and all that. Now, there's all kinds of good things that could come from it, and I hope mainstream manufacturers like Lenovo, Dell, or HP could pick up on that too and start, relying less on Intel, or rather light a fire in Intel to create these ARM SoCs as well themselves to make these better products. Or, let's get Lisa Su on this and make AMD even better.
Yeah, and
I got them stonks in AMD. I want to see it go up.
I like AMD a lot, and they have fewer issues than Intel, because I remember when the i7 processor released, Intel had issues with some of them frying, some of them having the cores not even working, and usual tech malfunctions that you get on a newer product that you don't realize until multiple people have them.
Yeah.
And they start reporting the issues that they're having with them because they're not in a controlled environment anymore.
I will say the first issue I had with the first Ryzen products was permanently parked cores that you couldn't unpark for some reason. And when I say core parking, I mean, like, you buy a Ryzen 7 1700X, which is supposed to be an 8-core processor, but for some reason you can't use 4 of those cores because it is parked. It's not in use, and for some reason you couldn't unlock it, which meant you essentially had a 4-core 8-thread processor, which was really, really dumb. That was a BIOS issue, by the way. They eventually fixed it, but it was one of those things where it's just like, issues on the first generation, which I think you're going to see with all products, honestly.
But you also got to remember that there's multiple companies that use AMD/Intel. Like there's the MSI AMD products, there's the Gigabyte AMD products, Intel products, and such. And they're going to operate a little bit differently every time. Because with the MSI, they have the Dragon Center, which allows you to, in your computer, connect all of your MSI products, but it does not read the AMD products that you want. So you have to get the Radeon application to update the drivers for your AMD stuff.
Right.
Especially for like the CPU updates. You have to have Radeon. Otherwise, good luck.
Yeah. All right. You got any more questions for me tonight, man?
No, I think that's going to call it a wrap.
Yeah, this was a good talk. Good little powwow we had here.
Thank you, Kaz, for joining me tonight.
Yeah, great to be here. I'll catch you later, buddy.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later.
See ya.
So connecting it to power, you won't get a shock, although it's drawing around 6 amps. Now I don't know what metal it's made of, I'm guessing iron, but it's hardly conductive, so it's safe to touch. Ow! Of course, getting shocked is not the only concern. Obviously, this thing is a heating element and can get very hot even if I run it on 120 volt AC. We have one of these old dimmers.
Okay, let's see what the new dimmer does differently.
does the exact same shit. So what? It's compatible with LED lights because the new LED lights are designed to be dimmable, and this takes the credit? What the hell? Fuck! Don't kick live circuits because they can kick back. Bring 2 phases to the outlet, and to do so, if you look here carefully, they have to cut that tiny bridge. Damn it. I have to learn to open the breaker.